Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Food and Finance Show. And today I have another great business owner on. We'll talk about his journey and we'll talk about, the nature of his business and what that's been like. So stay tuned.
Welcome to another great episode of the Food and Finance Show, where we talk about two things we know you love: great food and money. So stay tuned because we got a great show coming your way.
Well, without further ado, let me bring on my guest. Dave, how are you doing today?
I'm well today, sir. How about yourself?
I am great. Now, Dave, one of the things that I really love about the show is that a lot of people understand, or they've gone to restaurants, they've seen different business owners, but most people don't really have an appreciation for what goes into running a restaurant-related business.
I think if they did, we'd never have another one open, to be honest with you. So, the industry survives through nativity, so it's all good. But yeah, I'll be honest. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought that I would get into the food and beverage industry, other than as a consumer. I'm retired military. I did 21 years in the Army. I'm a retired Green Beret, and I retired here to South Carolina with my wife, and I still do defense work, and that's the path I thought we'd go. We have a very active life, and my wife's an aerobics instructor looking for healthier options, and she came across a Tropical Smoothie Cafe here in Columbia, South Carolina. Okay. And she decided that we should own it. Well, she had an idea that we wanted to, be business owners. She wanted to be an owner. And I was a bit patronizing all that. Like, absolutely, that's the American dream. Mm-hmm. Push, pave your own way, be your own boss. But frankly, I didn't really think we'd go that route. And the Tropical Smoothie here went out of business, and not because of lack of customers. It was really because of poor ownership and poor oversight and poor management. The owner was in New Jersey. His son was running it. It just didn't work out. And that's when my wife looked at me and said, we have to open one of these. And that started a journey from 9 years ago that it's been quite an adventure. A lot of lessons learned, a tremendous amount of work, but we've been successful. And we have 3 stores and are looking to get a few more, in all candor. So it can't be that bad.
Awesome.
I liken small business ownership or opening a new business must be a lot like childbirth, because it's incredibly painful, and then you forget about it and you do it again. And that's just kind of how I look at it.
Gotcha. Well, first off, thank you for your service. I know my father is retired Army as well, and like I said, wow. He retired out of Fort Jackson as well. How we ended up in the Carolinas. It's something about the Carolinas that people are like, once you get to retirement there, so it's like, why move back to wherever else I was from?
I'm with you. I grew up in Virginia, rural Virginia, and did most of my time in the military at Fort Bragg with Special Forces. And I was down here playing a rugby match and met my wife, and I retired. I moved here, and so I've slowly settled south, but I don't want to go any further. I mean, it's South Carolina's a great state. There's no other way to describe it.
Awesome. Now, with like I said, how do you manage doing both? Like I said, you're still doing, defense contract work and, running the business. I mean, like that sounds like double duty.
It is. I'm failing at retirement. My wife truly does the heavy lifting. I mean, she's in the trenches daily. If we need somebody to work, or more importantly, somebody doesn't show up for work, generally she's the one that bears the brunt of that. I used to travel a tremendous amount with my job, which really put a lot on her. But with COVID and then starting another job, a part-time job, I'm not going to try. My goal is not to travel like that anymore, so that truly it's more of a team effort, and she doesn't have to kill herself. And it's great to make some money, but if you don't have any time to utilize it, then what's the point of it? So that's our goal going forward, is try not to be quite so busy. And we're getting there. I mean, COVID's presented a lot of challenges, but we're getting there.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, one of the things that I find interesting in talking to different people that, they want to start a business is not really knowing how to really do it. And so some people get introduced to the idea of, of franchising and where it's like, hey, you don't have to completely start from scratch. How is it for you guys? I mean, just, going into a franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the biggest benefit of a franchise. And what you just said, your training package is already set up. Your supply chains are already set up. Your menu's already set up. Your logo, all that's set up. Uniforms, and of course, you pay for that, and you continue to pay for that. I mean, there's percentages of that related to marketing. There's percentages of your till, and most franchises are in the same ballpark, but there's always uniquenesses from one to the other. If anybody's interested, you write the company. You generally have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and then they send you a franchise disclosure document, and everything you need to know is in that FDD, to include points of contacts for other franchise owners that then you can reach out to and ask the questions about how's the business, how's customer relations, how's working with corporate. I mean, all those are challenges. And you become a client of corporate. It's a partnership relationship. They obviously need you to run their stores, and Tropical Smoothie Cafe is coming close to 1,000 stores, and all but one are franchises. So they have completely invested into the franchise model, where you'll see other franchises will have more of a, greater corporate owned, and then they'll buy up lower performance stores. I mean, it depending on what their business model is at the time. But Tropical Smoothie has absolutely gone all in on franchise ownership. And it's working for them.
Nice. Well, I'm very curious. So, you said that there was a store already in Colombia that went out of business. So when you guys came in and you started, you took ownership, what was it like with the city? Was the city like, oh my gosh, like, we're glad you guys are back? Or how did it go with you developing kind of?
We're a lot hurt that other business. It was in a bad location. It never marketed. And Tropical Smoothie was a lot smaller than as well. And it was owned by at the time, the founders still owned the company. They've since sold it to a large acquisition company that moved it to Atlanta and professionalized it in a lot of ways. And so it was still very much mom and pop, which had its pros and cons. But people outside of this one area, Harbison Boulevard, getting out towards Irmo, really didn't know about Tropical Smoothie. And so we kept it in the same general location, but we moved it to a much higher area of visibility on Harbison Boulevard. And we were profitable from day one because there was a client base waiting for us to open back up. And now we have 3 stores, one in Lexington and one downtown, on right next to the USC campus near the Colonial Life Arena. And so 3 different stores, 3 different personalities, 3 different distinctive clientele at each. It's actually it's pretty fascinating how it works. But yeah, so we didn't think we were taking a big risk, despite the fact that the one failed, because we knew that they had good customers. It was just, we just, as customers ourselves, we knew it was mismanaged. And initially my wife and I both had full-time jobs, so we thought we'd try a manager and do both. That lasted about 9 months, and we realized that, if we're going to make a go of this, then we had to get even more invested. And so my wife quit her job, and as we opened the second store, she dedicated full-time to all the stores and continues to this day.
Gotcha. No, I completely understand that. I know my wife and I had a similar conversation because I have my own accounting firm, and we were trying to do that and work 2 full-time executive level jobs. And we were like, this isn't going to work because we don't even see each other.
That's right. Yeah. Although sometimes that helps a marriage,
No, what was it? What were some of the, the thoughts that kind of went through your mind when you guys were, okay, all right, we figured out store number one, how quickly did you guys move into opening the second and the third location?
Well, we opened 3 stores in 4 years.
Oh, wow.
The first store was profitable, but we didn't think we'd make enough to be a lifestyle changer. It was a nice profit to be sure, but it wasn't enough for what our goals were. And so the second year, we started working opening the second store 6 months into it. And so about 14 months after we opened our first store, we opened the second store. And the second store wasn't as profitable. Now, the two combined, particularly for Columbia, South Carolina, which does not have a real high cost of living here, we were doing fine. And then we got a hot tip on a student housing being built at a parking lot across from the Greek village at USC. And so we contacted the company. They hadn't even started advertising for the mixed retail, and we got the corner location. It was our most expensive store to open because it was just gravel, and we built it as they built the 700-bed dorm above us. But we couldn't pass up that opportunity. So we had 3 stores in 4 years, and those 3 stores have all been profitable every month they've been open. So in that regards, it's been a good model, with the exception of COVID. COVID put a bite on a lot of people, particularly when they shut down our university store. We stayed open, but it was, revenue was tight.
Gotcha. That is completely understandable. And plus, having been in Columbia, I grew up in Columbia, so yeah, okay. That sounds like a great location where you're at there.
When the students are in town, it's our busiest store. When the students are not, so for the Christmas holiday, summertime it slows down, but there's still a lot of athletes and summer sessions going on. It's not but spring break and Christmas, it goes to nothing. It's not Harbison Boulevard remains our highest grossing store, but when the students are in, then downtown becomes the higher grosser. But we support most of the football, most of the sports teams. I got a delivery to Gamecock football tomorrow, and the visiting teams that come in. When they recently hosted the NCAA regional and super regionals here, I catered to University of Virginia baseball 15 times. I delivered 600 smoothies and 400 sandwiches to them over a 10-day period. So it was busy. They like smoothies.
That's an amazing point, because one of the things that, I have a couple of restaurant clients, and one of the things that we talk about in the meetings is, it's one thing to have a great product, but it's just how do you actually get the word out in front of people to where, like I said, even when visitors come into town, they're wanting your product as well. How did you guys go about developing kind of those relationships to be able to secure those deals?
Well, that's a great question. We hadn't even thought about it. And then the University of Florida women's volleyball team called us because, Tropical Smoothie started in Florida, and there's over 100 stores in Florida. And they called us because they found us on Google and asked if we would deliver. And that was 2 months after we first opened. And we delivered to them. And now I keep a spreadsheet of every sports team we've ever delivered to. And every Sunday night, I look at the Gamecock calendar, and for the next week, I reach out to all the visiting teams, regardless of the sport. And I contact their director of operations, who handles on-the-road catering. And sometimes I get responses, sometimes I get nothing, but we stay pretty busy. And then if we've catered for them before and I see they're coming, then you're like, hey, we took care of you last time, let's take care of you again this time. And it minimizes their risk, because their job depends on making sure catering shows up for their teams. And so and it's the same really for the Gamecock teams. Once you demonstrate that you're reliable and you're going to provide a good product, then they keep coming back to you. And we've got a great relationship with all the Gamecock teams. And I'm still a big enough kid, so the fact you're, supporting sports teams, being around it's fun. There's no way to describe it.
Awesome. I absolutely love that. That's one of those things that I learned from spending time around like the sales teams of just, once you deliver that product, then you show that you're reliable and even what you're doing with just keeping in touch with them. I think that's amazing.
Yep. LinkedIn is awesome. I mean, just as you reached out to me on LinkedIn, I'll go, and we do a lot of sports with pharmaceutical communities. So I'll reach out to pharma reps on LinkedIn, local to Columbia, and say, hey, we offer a healthier product, which is really apt for doctor office visits. Let us know if we can support. And then I go to doctor's office because the ladies answering phones are the gatekeepers. So you give them a free smoothie coupon. You're like, hey, when a pharma rep calls you up, you tell them you want Tropical Smoothie. And we've generated a ton of business that way. Ton of it.
Nice. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. You got to hustle, man. You got to hustle. That's the bottom line.
Awesome. So one question I got to ask is, when it comes down to the Tropical Smoothie, what's your favorite flavor?
Wow, that is that's quite a question. Well, the Blimey Lime is the first thing that jumped in my head, so I'll say that. At Christmas time, they have a cranberry truffle it's almost sinful how delicious it is, but I just know that I got to go run extra miles when I get done drinking it. Even though it's not like it's bad for you by any stretch, but it's decadent. Decadent's the word I'm looking for. And but there's a lot of good ones. Our best seller is the Island Green, which is spinach, kale, pineapple, banana, and mango. I never in my life thought I would drink so much kale, but it is an excellent smoothie. And I've got a 12-year-old boy, so he's been involved in the stores now since he was 3. And that's how we get him his vegetables and now, there's no child labor laws on a family-owned business. So he works shifts in the stores as a 12-year-old. So, all hands on deck.
I absolutely love it. Well, before we wrap up,
Sure.
One question I like to ask every guest that comes on. I mean, when you think about your journey, what that's been like and where you guys are now, and just even where you're going in the future, what's 2 pieces of wisdom you would share with other small business owners?
Yeah, one is do your homework, because it is very easy to fall in love with your own idea. I am 3-1-1 when it comes to opening businesses, and and we're not done. We're going to open a few more. At least we believe so. But do your homework. Have a trusted agent you can bounce an idea off of that has the confidence to say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Have a business plan. Even if you're not going to a bank for financing, go through the process of a business plan just to make sure you're being honest with yourself that this is really a good idea and you're about ready to invest hundreds of thousands or more dollars into this. We've learned that lesson. Also, discovery learning is very expensive, and if you do your homework, then you'll limit some of that discovery learning, which is basically making mistakes in your business processes, and those are always expensive. And you thinking about, at the end of the day, you're the last person to get paid, and so you don't want to waste any of that money before it gets to you. That and I'll tell you, the customer is not always right, and you've got to take care of your staff just as much as you have to accommodate customers. And if you've got and I will say this, we'll have 500 to 1,000 interactions in our store. One of them will be uncomfortable, which means that the vast, overwhelming majority of your customers are just great people that come in, they order a smoothie, you give them a smoothie, they go on their way. But there's always one that wants to make a ruckus or cause a scene or work a scam. There are scammers out there, and it'll ruin your whole day. And so as an owner, you got to protect your staff from that. And if we make the mistake, we fix it. But if we don't make the mistake, then I've told more than one person that we're probably not the store for them, and they should probably go somewhere else to get their smoothie. And then particularly with social media critics, because people just get on there and I try not to push back too hard, but I defend our staff on social media, and they see that. And so that's just the two things, is that, do your homework, and the customer's not always right.
Well, awesome. Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming on. And before we wrap up, what are the 3 locations where people can come check you out if they're in Columbia?
Absolutely. We're at 150B on Harbison Boulevard. We're at 5166 Sunset Boulevard over in Lexington, and which is just past the Target. And we are at 650 Lincoln Street, downtown Columbia, near the Colonial Life Arena. www.tropicalsmoothie.com to see the menu. That's corporate's website. And then you can find us on Twitter at TSmoothieSC. And we'll go from there. But listen, thank you so very much for this opportunity. This is the very first podcast I've ever done in my life. And in all candor, I was like, I told my wife's like, how do you get involved in these things? I'm like, I don't know. But this gentleman reached out, and oh gosh, I'm going to experience it. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you like what you heard, don't be selfish. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and then share this with a friend, because you know a business owner that could definitely use this insight. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and turn on the notification bell so you get all the updates when we release a new episode.